Hi, everyone. I hope you had a great weekend or are having a great long weekend. So I am here to give the announcements for week 3. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our assignment that's coming up this week with the city training, make sure that everyone knows exactly what to do. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our research proposal assignment and make sure that you know where to find your feedback for your research proposal question. Talk about our discussion from last week on chapters 4 and 5, and then give you your weekly checklist for this week. So the first thing that I want to remind you about is the city training. So this is one of our major assignments. It's worth 10 points and it is due September 10th. So this training is a training that all researchers must take before they are able to even submit a proposal to the Institutional Review Board. This training goes through all of the ethical components that researchers need to be mindful of when they're working with human participants, with people. So this will go along with the readings that we are doing this week, chapter 6, and it's a great addition to that. It goes into depth and it makes you certified to conduct research. So it is a training through a separate website other than Georgia State. So the link is in the assignment link for city programs. So through iCollege, when you click the link, it will take you here. It will look like this. Now, when we're logging in, you select the middle one, log in through my organization. You click right there. And then once you are there, you search for your organization here, Georgia State University. It will populate once you start typing. You agree to the terms, you create your account. And then once you are in there, you're able to select your course. Now, the course that we are doing for this class is Group 2 Social Behavioral. This is the course that prepares you to have the ethical standards necessary to do research with people like we do in education. So it is 12 modules. If you want a study guide, in iCollege, I did put a study guide. Let me show you. In iCollege, I did put a study guide under the assignment. So when you click on the city training, you have, of course, the button to register. This is how you register to get to the website, the directions on how to do it. And then these are some review slides and notes. So when you open this up, this is a Google slide that goes through some of the main points from each of the modules. So there are 12 modules. There's a little slide. I put some important notes that go with each of those modules. And this can be a study guide to help you as you are working your way through those modules. So again, that is available to you in iCollege. Those review notes are there for you as well. Okay. So it is 12 modules, so do get started with that so you can kind of break it down into pieces and you're not trying to finish the whole thing in one sitting. So after each module, there will be a quiz. Now your grade for this class is not your average of your quiz score, but rather the 10 full points for participating. So if you miss a question or two, that is okay. And you are able to retake quizzes if there was a quiz that you need to review that module. So I suggest making sure that you get registered in that. Email me if you have any questions for that, and use those study guides and those notes to help you as you work your way through the modules. Okay, so then this is what your certificate will look like once you finish. And this is the certificate that you will upload to iCollege for your grade by next Sunday, September 10th. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about is what we did last week, our check-in for our research proposal. So as you know, the research proposal is one of our culminating assignments for the class. And so we are going to be working on that piece by piece. It's going to connect to all of our readings, and hopefully you will feel that it builds itself as you go. So the first thing that you turned in this week was your potential research topic and question. So I just want to talk a little bit about what a good research question entails, and then make sure that you do also check in iCollege for your feedback. Once you click on that assignment, once you click on it, you'll be able to see the feedback that I gave you for that, and any suggestions or ideas that I have for you for next steps. So the research question needs to be, of course, clear and concise. So it is focused. So the ones that I've seen so far, you're choosing really important research topics. Now, within these topics, there are so many important aspects of it that need to be studied. However, each individual study is only studying one particular aspect of it, not the entire issue. So sometimes students can want to take on too much with their research question, but you have to keep it focused. You are just looking at one particular angle. You can always do another study, and there's a body of scholars who are studying the topic as well. So try to keep it concise and focused on one small aspect of the research issue you're interested in. And it must be able to be addressed through observation. Now, this could be an educational assessment. It could be some type of data. It could be an actual observation, an interview, a survey. You have to be able to address the question through some type of observation or educational measurement tool. It needs to be open-ended. It's not like a yes or no question. So here is how you can transform a question that might be subjective to more objective. So what is the best university? So this is like a research topic. So there's a lot of different aspects of this that a researcher could plan a study about. And one aspect is what characteristics lead to the highest student retention. So student retention is one aspect of a good university. So you need to make sure that your research question makes clear exactly what aspect you're looking at. So instead of just saying best university, we said highest student retention. So that's something that can be observed through data. And then also we know that we're looking at university characteristics. And so that's the open-ended part. It's not just which university has the highest student retention. That would not be an empirical research study, because that is, you can answer that question just by looking at it. That's not something that's open-ended that needs to have a research study to answer the question. Okay, so when you are thinking about research questions, here is some verbiage that can help you with your research questions. Sorry if this is covered. I'll try to include a screenshot of this with the announcement so you can see this. So for quantitative, you have to make sure that you mention the variables that you are going to be measuring. So how does the blank impact the blank for these participants on this research site? Actually, let me do this. Okay, so hopefully you can see a little bit better now this whole slide. So this verbiage here for the quantitative question, you can see you can plug in your particular variables, your participant, your research site. There was some great discussion about the impact of participants and research sites in this week's perusal, so you can check that out. Now, for qualitative questions, again, you might want to mention the particular participants, the particular research site, and then how do they experience, describe, or engage with the particular research topic. Now, there's a lot of interest so far that I've seen about mixed methods, which is combining elements of quantitative and qualitative to address a particular question. So for this, you need to have, for mixed methods questions, traditionally there will be 3 questions. There'll be the quantitative question that mentions the variables. There'll be the qualitative question that mentions the research topic and the participants, and then the interaction question. How do they interact? What is the impact of the quantitative data on the qualitative, or vice versa? So hopefully this is helpful. And again, there is individual feedback that I gave you in iCollege. And if you haven't gotten it yet, it will be coming in the coming days. Now, this went along with our discussion of chapters 4 and 5. So I wanted to go through perusal and direct your attention here. So in perusal, there's some really great discussion so far, and I'm sure that there will continue to be more great discussion. If you want to search for my comments, again, you can search for a particular person. You can search for me to see the questions that I've answered or instructor comments. And also, if you want to ask a question to the whole group, you can @everyone is the tag, and that way everyone will see the question. There are a couple of my responses that I added that @everyone so everyone can see, because I thought the question would be pertinent for everyone. So great discussion here. And then, of course, the questions. This is, again, a good study guide to make sure that you understood the main topics in the question and are ready for the midterm. So to go over the multiple choice questions. So the first one was about a qualitative research problem. So a qualitative research problem. We know qualitative is bottom up, it is open-ended, it uses qualitative data. So it's not interested in hypothesis testing, it's not interested in proving something, which is fine. Like, that's the intended purpose. Instead, its focus is on exploring some process or event, not for the purpose of proving anything at all, really. We learned that last week, that no research can prove anything, but rather give evidence for. But qualitative research problems are focused on exploring some process or event. And there are some examples in the text if you still want to see some more of those. Whereas a quantitative research problem, it can focus on explaining or predicting. It can also focus on describing relationships. So A, B, and C in number one could all be qualitative research problems. So here on question number two, we know that exploring processes or events is more aligned with qualitative research. And understanding a subjective insider point of view would also be aligned with qualitative research. I'm thinking about maybe a autoethnography or a phenomenology to understand the insider perspective, and then mixed research would draw on both. Now, looking at this research statement, what are the effects of extracurricular activities on cognitive development of school-aged children? Now, if that was going to be a quantitative research question, you would need to add in a bit more detail to have a more clear understanding of what the variables were. So like extracurricular activities, you might want to say in like the number of extracurricular activities, or like the type of extracurricular activities you're looking at. Like, is it sports? Is it arts? Is it both? And then cognitive development is very, very broad. That's what I was talking about in the discussion of your research questions, is that you have to, there's so many different aspects of cognitive development that you could study, but to make it a stronger quantitative research question, you would want to be more specific about what aspect of cognitive development you're looking at, or you could mention how you are going to measure it. Cognitive development as measured by, and then list the actual educational measurement that you are going to use to assess cognitive development. So that's how you can make this stronger, because you want to make sure that you make clear the variables, because quantitative research is looking at the relationship between variables. So we know extracurricular activities and cognitive development, but it still needs to be more specific. So this question is talking about teacher burnout. It says most of the research identified different variables associated with teacher burnout. So this is talking about past research. The current literature is identifying different variables in rural and urban settings. Okay, so most of the research on this topic has different factors that lead to burnout in rural settings for teachers versus urban settings. So that's what the literature review revealed, is that different things. But the researcher wanted to determine if factors contributing to teacher burnout would be different in rural and urban settings. So they wanted to investigate why this difference exists. So they identified a problem in the literature, and then they planned a study to build on that and find out why. So that's why this is past research. Now, of course, it's addressing a practical issue, definitely. And so I still think that that is important. So if you picked that, you know, it's still definitely a practical issue, but based on the wording here, based on the research, the literature review, there's these different factors. And so they planned a study to try to figure out why. Now, it would be a practical issue if the researcher just noticed, maybe they had worked in a rural setting and they worked in an urban setting and they noticed that it was differences, so they planned a study, but this one was planned based on the research that they had done. So here, when you write a research proposal, to convince the reader of the importance, that is going to be your introduction. You talk about the significance, you talk about the research topic, why it is so important that people pay attention to and study this topic. Now, if the purpose also includes a hypothesis testing is quantitative research, and there's some great discussion about this in Perusal, so make sure you read everyone's comments. But hypothesis testing is associated with quantitative research. The research will do statistical analysis to find out if there is evidence that the hypothesis is statistically significant or not. Now, in the data analysis of mixed method studies, it's important that you talk about the quantitative analysis, the qualitative analysis, and then how you are going to analyze both of those together. We call that the interaction between the qualitative and the quantitative components. Now, finally, if you are coding and searching for relationships between observations, interviews, documents, films, and so on, that is going to be a qualitative study. Analysis for quantitative studies is statistical analysis. Qualitative is coding, looking for themes, relationships between the big ideas that came through in the interview transcripts. Quantitative is statistical analysis. And then, of course, mixed methods is both. Okay, so those are the multiple choice questions for this week. So again, if you haven't read through everyone's comments, make sure that you do that because there's some really great discussion. So for next week, next Sunday, we are going to read chapter 6, which is about ethics, which will correspond with the lecture for next week. Which is in Perusal 3, and then also the city training is all about research ethics. So that is what we are working on for next week. Now, there is an optional Zoom this week if you would like to come. That will be Thursday, September 7th at 6 p.m. And the link is in the announcements for this week. So I hope to see you then if you are available. And I am still working through the research questions, but have been excited about the ones since and have been loving all the discussion on Perusal. So keep it up and talk to you soon. Bye.